My mother once leaned over my baby's crib, wrinkled her nose, and called her disgusting. That word carved something permanent into me, a scar that no apology could reach. I swore she'd never see us again. For 5 years, she didn't. But last night, the phone rang. The same woman who disowned my daughter for being born different is dying, and I'm the only one whose blood can save her. I used to think silence was peace. Now I know it's just the absence of noise. Every morning began the same way, soft humming from the baby monitor, the rustle of sheets as my daughter, Ellie, shifted in her sleep. I would tiptoe into her room, lavender light washing over her small body. She always smiled when I whispered her name, half her face slower than the other, but beautiful all the same. She was 5 now, born with cerebral palsy, fragile bones, slow speech, a laugh like sunlight. She had taught me what strength really meant, holding your head high when your body won't listen. It was a quiet life, just the two of us. I worked from home, wrote reports for a logistics firm, and spent evenings doing therapy exercises. My mother's absence hung in the background like old wallpaper, always there if I looked too closely. But sometimes, out of nowhere, her voice still echoed in my mind. She looks disgusting. The first time she said it, Ellie was 2 months old. My mother stood over the crib in a cloud of expensive perfume, lips curled. "You should have known better," she told me. Things like this run in families. I remember holding my baby tighter, turning my body to shield her from that stare. My husband back then, before he left unsure whom to defend. The marriage didn't survive much longer after that. But I never forgot the way my mother looked at my child, like she was a stain on the family's reputation. 5 years had passed since that day. 5 years since I blocked her number, packed up our things, and moved to a small rental house 2 towns away. I built a world of quiet routines and hard-won stability. A world where Ellie was safe from anyone who saw her as less than perfect. Until the night the phone rang. It was late past 11, and I was finishing dishes while Ellie slept. The number flashed across the screen, unknown but familiar in rhythm. I froze. I could have ignored it, should have. But curiosity has a cruel sense of timing. "Hello?" My voice came out cautious, neutral. "Anna." Her voice was thinner than I remembered, brittle. "It's your mother." I said nothing. "I know you don't want to hear from me, but please, just listen." There was a tremor I didn't recognize. Not anger, not control. Fear. "I've been in the hospital. They found something in my blood. The doctors say it's leukemia." I gripped the counter to steady myself. The hum of the refrigerator filled the pause between us. "They're testing relatives," she continued. "You and Ellie might be matches." There it was, the invisible string tightening again, pulling me back toward the same woman who had once told me my child was repulsive. The same woman who cared more about appearances than compassion. "I'm sorry you're sick," I said, my voice flat. "But I don't think—" "They said you're the closest match." The words landed like a fist to the gut. "They already checked your father. He's not compatible. It has to be you." She paused, her breath shallow, paper thin. "Anna, I need you." I stared at my reflection in the window. Tired eyes, damp hair. A woman rebuilt piece by piece. My mother's voice softened. "You don't have to forgive me. Just help me." I thought of Ellie sleeping in her room, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Of the word disgusting. Buried but never dead. "You're asking me to save the woman who called my daughter disgusting." Silence, then a soft sob. "I didn't mean it. I was scared. I said terrible things." "You meant it," I said quietly. "You just regret needing me now." I ended the call before she could reply. My heart hammered against my ribs as if trying to escape my chest. Through the wall, I heard Ellie stir and sigh. A small reminder that my world wasn't broken, it was healing. But even as I steadied myself, I knew the silence wouldn't last. Guilt is a voice that never really dies. It just waits for the right moment to whisper again. The next morning, a hospital email confirmed it. I was the only compatible donor. I read the line 3 times before the meaning fully landed. The woman who had rejected my child's existence now needed my blood to survive. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful. She needs bone marrow, and I'm the only match. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, the mask of control, cracking just enough for fear to seep through. My mother, terrified. I should have felt pity. Instead, I felt nothing at all. By morning, I'd already checked on Ellie twice. She slept with her head tilted back slightly, mouth parted, one hand resting on her favorite rabbit. The steady rise of her chest anchored me proof that love didn't need perfection to exist. As I made coffee, memories slipped through the cracks. I was 9 when I first understood what my mother valued most: control. She ironed our bedsheets until they were stiff, corrected my posture at dinner, criticized the way I laughed too loud, too unrefined. Every morning, she stood before the bathroom mirror, smoothing moisturizer over her face with surgical precision, as if perfection could be painted on. When my father left, she didn't cry. She just said, "Some people aren't built for excellence." I used to think that meant I had to be. By 12, I'd learned to read her moods like weather. A sigh meant disappointment. A raised eyebrow meant I'd gained weight. Every small failure was treated as a moral flaw. I didn't realize how deep the damage ran until Ellie was born. When the doctor explained her diagnosis, the motor delays, the tightness in her muscles, the long road ahead, I remember glancing at my mother's face. Her expression hadn't changed. Then, after the doctor left, she said it. "You should have done better." 2 weeks later, she came to visit. I had dressed Ellie in her soft pink onesie, brushed her little tuft of hair, and hoped ridiculously that love might fix whatever was broken between us. My mother leaned over the crib, frowned, and whispered, "She looks disgusting." The sound of it still vibrated in my chest all these years later. Disgusting. The word had power; it could rearrange your bones. After that, I stopped calling. She sent gifts once or twice. A stiff white dress and a check. For proper therapy, both returned unopened. I built a life without her in it, a life defined by work, small routines, and the quiet satisfaction of being enough for my daughter. But now, she was sick, and I was the only one who could help. By noon, the hospital's transplant coordinator called. The woman's voice was professional but kind. "Your mother's condition is progressing quickly. We understand your history, but she's running out of time. You're her best chance." I almost laughed. My best chance was cutting her out of my life. The woman paused. "That may be true, but medicine doesn't care about history." After the call, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the steam rising from my untouched coffee. Ellie was in the living room, practicing stacking her wooden blocks with her therapist. I could hear her giggling softly each time the tower fell. The sound should have grounded me. Instead, it just hurt. Because guilt has a strange way of dressing itself up as logic. I pressed my palms to my eyes and saw flashes of every cruel moment. The time she made me skip my best friend's birthday because we don't associate with mediocrity. The night she threw my college acceptance letter into the trash because the school wasn't prestigious enough. The way she smiled. When I cried because she said emotion made women look weak. She had spent a lifetime teaching me that love was a transaction. Now she wanted to collect on it. By evening, my decision started to form cold. If she wanted my help, she would have to face what she did. No more pretending, no more rewrites of history. Ellie stirred from her nap and smiled when she saw me. "Mama," she murmured, reaching out a small hand. I lifted her and breathed her in warm, safe, alive. "You're perfect," I whispered. "You always were." That night, after Ellie was asleep again, I sat in the dark with my phone in my hand. My mother's contact still existed, a ghost I'd never deleted. For years I had imagined calling her, rehearsing the words I'd say if I ever had the strength. Now, those words burned in my throat like acid. I typed out a message. "We need to talk. In person." Then I stared at it for a long moment before pressing send. This wasn't forgiveness. It was confrontation overdue, deliberate, necessary. If she wanted to live, she would have to face the truth she buried 5 years ago. She deserves to hear my no in person. Hospitals have their own kind of silence, not peaceful, sterile. It hums under fluorescent lights and antiseptic air, a quiet that smells like fear. I'd forgotten that sound until I stepped through those sliding glass doors. The receptionist smiled politely. "You're here for?" "My mother," I said. "Margaret Turner. Bone marrow transplant evaluation." Her fingers paused mid-type, eyes flicking up. "Ah, the daughter. She's been expecting you." That word expecting felt sharp, as if my mother had ordered me like room service. The walk to her room felt endless. Nurses moved like ghosts. I held Ellie's drawing in my hand, a crooked heart, scrawled in red crayon. I wasn't sure why I'd brought it. Maybe to remind myself what love actually looked like. For a moment, my instinct wavered, not compassion, but a kind of startled recognition. Time had done what I never could. Humbled her. "Anna," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes watered instantly, something she used to call emotional weakness. "You came." "I did," I said simply, not stepping closer. She gestured weakly to the chair. "Sit, please." "I didn't. You said you needed to talk." Her expression shifted, confusion laced with old entitlement. "The doctors told you, didn't they? You're a perfect match." "I heard. They said the procedure is simple. A few days of discomfort. It could save my life." I stared at her, at the tubes, the white sheets, the quiet machine that breathed in rhythm with her body. "You talk about it like you're asking me to water your plants." Her lips tightened. "Anna, don't be cruel." "Cruel." My voice cracked into a dry laugh. "You called my daughter disgusting, Mom. You erased us. You taught me cruelty." She looked away, her jaw tightening the way it always did when reality didn't bend for her. "I was wrong to say that. I didn't know what I was saying." "You meant it," I said softly. "You always mean what you say. That's your pride, remember?" She blinked, silent. The hum of the monitor filled the room, steady and impartial. "I'm sorry," she whispered finally, the words fragile, rehearsed. "I was scared. You have to understand." "No," I said. "You don't get to rewrite this. You weren't scared, you were embarrassed, because my daughter didn't fit your idea of perfect." Her face twitched. "She would have had a difficult life, I thought." "You thought she'd make you look bad." That landed like glass breaking. The air shifted. She tried to speak, but no words came out. A nurse knocked softly on the doorframe. "Mrs. Turner, your labs are ready. We'll take you down shortly." My mother nodded weakly. I stepped aside, watching the nurse adjust her IV. When the nurse left, my mother spoke again, quieter now. "You're still angry." I met her eyes. "Anger would mean I still care enough to want you to change. I don't." She flinched, then reached for the cup on her tray with trembling fingers. I didn't move to help her. Watching her struggle was cruel. Maybe. But I'd spent years bleeding myself dry to make her comfortable. She took a shaky sip. "You sound just like me." "Maybe," I said. "Except I know when to stop pretending." For a long time, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the beep of the heart monitor and the whistle of air conditioning. I could see she was trying to calculate a new strategy. Finally, she leaned forward. "Anna, I'm dying." "So was I said quietly. 5 years ago. You just didn't notice." She closed her eyes, pain flickering across her face. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't want to die thinking my daughter hates me." I studied her for a long moment. My entire childhood had been shaped by her obsession with appearances, how the world saw us. Now she wanted absolution to look like love. "You don't get to decide what I feel," I said. "But you can earn honesty." Her brows furrowed. "Honesty? If you want my help, you'll ask again. But this time in front of the person you called disgusting." Her mouth fell open slightly. "You mean—" "Yes," I said, "in front of Ellie." The silence that followed wasn't sterile this time. It was alive, charged, brittle, real. The words hung in the air like judgment. Her eyes darted away. "Anna, that's not necessary." "It is," I said. "You taught me that words have power. Now you'll use yours to repair what you broke." For the first time, she looked afraid not of dying, but of facing the mirror I was holding up. I turned toward the door. "I'll bring her tomorrow." Her voice followed me out of the room, small and desperate. "Please, Anna, don't do this." But I didn't look back. Because for once, I was the one setting the terms. "Fine," I whispered to myself as the elevator doors closed. "I'll let her ask for help again, but this time, in front of my daughter." The next morning felt heavier than any I could remember. Ellie sat at the kitchen table, swinging her small legs under the chair, spooning cereal into her mouth one shaky scoop at a time. Her braces clinked softly when the spoon hit the bowl. "Are we going somewhere, Mama?" she asked, her speech gentle and deliberate, each word an act of courage. "Yes, baby," I said, adjusting the strap on her backpack. "We're going to see Grandma." The name felt foreign in my mouth. Ellie paused mid-bite, curious. She'd never met the woman beyond the edges of my silence. At the hospital, the air smelled of bleach and cold metal. I guided Ellie's wheelchair through the maze of corridors. When we reached room 213, I hesitated, hand on the handle. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I knew I couldn't keep shielding Ellie from ghosts. The door opened with a muted click. My mother looked up. The sight of Ellie beside me froze her. Her expression flickered between recognition and shame, the kind that doesn't know where to land. "Hello," I said flatly. "You remember my daughter?" Ellie waved shyly. "Hi, Grandma." The word hit the air like a challenge. My mother blinked, tears forming at the edges of her eyes. "She's grown so much," she whispered. "She's 5, I said. "You missed most of it." Ellie smiled uncertainly, her voice soft. "Mommy said you were sick." My mother nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm not very well." Ellie's innocence cut through every pretense. "Mommy said maybe you need her help." Silence filled the room. The heart monitor's rhythmic beeping seemed louder now. My mother's eyes darted toward me. I didn't move. "You said you wanted to talk," I reminded her. "Say what you need to say." She inhaled shakily, glancing at Ellie again. I need your mom's help," she said slowly. "I was told she's the only match." Ellie's brow furrowed. "For what?" "For medicine. For something that could make me better." Ellie nodded, satisfied with the simplicity. "Then Mommy will help you." I felt the sting of tears I refused to let fall. The pure, unguarded kindness of that child, the same kindness my mother once called weakness, was now the thing she needed most. But my mother wasn't done. She looked at me, as if waiting for permission to continue. I stayed silent. Her voice trembled. "Ellie, there's something I need to tell you." Ellie tilted her head. "Okay. I said something very hurtful when you were a baby," she continued, words dragging through the air like stones underwater. "Something I didn't mean, but it hurt your mommy very much. I was wrong." Ellie looked confused. "What did you say?" My mother hesitated. Her lips trembled. "I said you were disgusting." The word cracked open the room. It was heavier, spoken aloud, stripped of denial. The sound of it against Ellie's innocence was unbearable. Ellie blinked, frowning. "That's not a nice word." "No," my mother said quickly, tears breaking free. "It's not. It's a terrible word. And I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." The sincerity was uneven, too practiced, too late, but it was the first time she'd said those words out loud. Ellie's small voice came again, soft but steady. "It's okay. Mommy says people can change when they try really hard." Something broke in my mother then. She reached for Ellie's hand, but I stepped forward, intercepting it gently. "She doesn't owe you forgiveness," I said quietly. My mother nodded, eyes wet. "I know." "Good," I said. "Because I don't either." She winced as if the words had weight. I didn't yell, I didn't need to. My calm was sharper than any scream. "For years, you made me believe that love had conditions, grades, manners, appearances," I continued. "You made me think compassion was weakness. And yet here you are, begging for compassion from the people you shamed." Her voice cracked. "I don't know how to undo it." "You don't," I said. "You just live with it, the way we did." The silence that followed wasn't cruel. It was honest. Ellie, sensing the heaviness, reached for my hand. "Mommy, can we go home now?" "Soon, baby." I looked at my mother, frail, trembling, smaller than I ever imagined she could be. For a fleeting moment, I saw her not as the tyrant of my childhood, but as a frightened, aging woman terrified of death and of being unloved. But pity is not the same as forgiveness. I leaned closer. "You'll get my Marrow," I said, "but not my peace. That's mine now." Her eyes flooded, lips parting to speak, but no sound came. Only a trembling breath that seemed to carry decades of regret she'd never be able to articulate. As I turned to wheel Ellie out, she called after me, voice breaking like glass. "Anna, please. I don't want to die." I paused at the doorway, the weight of her words sinking in. Then, quietly, "You should have thought of that before you killed the part of me that still believed you could love." The door closed behind us with a soft click, not a slam, not an ending, just a quiet punctuation to a story that had run too long. Tomorrow, they would take my blood and she would finally understand what it meant to owe me life. I'd been awake all night anyway, staring at the ceiling, counting every beat of my heart. When the nurse came in, clipboard in hand, I nodded before she even spoke. "I'm ready." She smiled, the kind that didn't ask questions. "The procedure's short. We'll monitor you for a few hours after. You'll be a little sore, that's all." I signed the forms without looking at them. Down the hall, through the glass, I could see my mother. She looked smaller than ever, a pale ghost in a field of white sheets. When she noticed me, her eyes filled again, this time with something that almost looked like humility. Almost. I didn't wave. They prepped me in silence, attaching monitors, inserting the IV. Before they put me under, I thought of Ellie. She was in the waiting room with her therapist, coloring a picture for me. She didn't understand the full weight of what was happening, but she knew it mattered. She'd said, "You're helping Grandma so she won't be scared." And I'd said, something like that. When I woke, the room was dim. My body ached, but my chest felt strangely light, like something old had finally burned itself out. The nurse adjusted my blanket. "It went well," she said. "Your mother's in recovery. She'll be stable soon." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Stable. The word felt like a truce I hadn't agreed to. A few hours later, they let me see her. She was awake, pale but breathing steadily. Her eyes fluttered open when I stepped in. For a second, I saw panic, then recognition. "Anna," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "You did it." I nodded. "Yes." "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to," I said quietly. "It wasn't for you." Confusion flickered across her face. Then, why? I looked at her, really looked at the woman who'd built her whole identity on appearances, now stripped of them all. "Because I didn't want Ellie to think hate was hereditary," I said. "Someone has to end the cycle." Tears slid down her face. "I don't deserve your kindness." "It's not kindness," I said. "It's closure." We sat in silence, the machines humming softly between us. There was nothing left to say. She reached for my hand. I let her touch it for a moment, enough to let her know I wasn't cruel. Then I pulled away. "I hope you get better," I said. "But I won't be back." Her mouth opened to protest, but I was already at the door. This time, I didn't look back. Outside, the sky had cleared. Ellie's laughter echoed across the parking lot as she ran, half stumbling, half flying toward me. I crouched, catching her in my arms, the smell of crayons and shampoo flooding my senses. "You did it, Mommy," she said. "Grandma will be okay?" "Yes, baby," I whispered into her hair. "She'll be okay." Ellie leaned back, studying my face. "Are you okay?" That question, pure, unguarded, hit harder than anything else. For a moment, my throat closed around the truth. Then I smiled. "I think I finally am." As we reached the parking lot, Ellie tugged on my sleeve. "Can we get ice cream?" "Of course," I said. "2 scoops. You earned it." She grinned, her braces glinting in the sunlight. And just like that, the world felt lighter. I glanced back once, not at her, but at the building, where my mother now slept with my blood flowing through her veins. She would live, but differently. We both would. Ellie sang quietly beside me, off-key but perfect. For the first time, I didn't flinch at silence. I let it hold me. Because the woman who once called my daughter disgusting now carried her life because of mine, and I carried something she never could. Peace.